Stop being the smartest person in the room who sounds like a junior because of the politeness trap. You have the 4K brain and the technical solutions, but in international meetings, your delivery is failing you. You're over-apologizing and losing your authority. In the corporate world, good English isn't enough. You need executive rhythm. Without it, your global partners aren't just missing your point, they're missing your leadership. I'm Coach Nant, and on March 21st, my partners and I are hosting a live workshop to bridge your delivery gap. You'll meet the experts who coach top managers in Bangkok. We are keeping this session to just 100 participants so we can give real feedback. Once those seats are gone, the link expires. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code you see on the screen to secure your spot. Let's fix your rhythm. Welcome everyone to our first ever workshop. And I see there are people coming from different parts of the world. We have our coaches, Dr. Coach RG. Coach Dennis will be with us, but he will be a bit late, okay, due to unforeseen circumstances. And we also have Coach Graham. Hello, Coach Graham. And we have Teacher Jonah. She's so far away, like the second floor. And we have our students on Discord. Adrian from Mexico and Anastasia from Ukraine. Wow. I've been talking about the executive rhythm and the 4K brain. So we have the 4K clarity. So that's your expertise in your field. Maybe you're in the field of IT, engineering, HR, logistics, and most of the young professionals that I coached through the years, I see them as an expert. Like when they talk to me, maybe it's because I've been here in Thailand for almost 16 years, 17 years. So my ear already adjusted. So I believe it's the same thing with Coach Graham. So when people mispronounce some words, we can decode. But the common challenge with our students is that they say that it's our first time. I'm a logistics manager and I work with a French national. I work with someone from India, and they don't have any clue about my pronunciation, my bumps. So that's a very common challenge. And most of my students are having a hard time to correct those bumps. And today we're going to talk about that. So in your head, your brain, you have like the 4K clarity. You're an expert in your field. But when you're in a meeting, your delivery is like analog, like this. So it's very vague. So your strategy there in 4K, but when you speak, you're trapped in the politeness thing, like politeness trap. And what happens is that your 4K vision is becoming blurry, or it has a lower resolution signal. And you're here not just to learn English, you're here to reclaim your professional stature, okay? And we're going to fix the transmission in this workshop. All right. So what to expect today? We have this roadmap. So we have the intro and icebreaker. So I might ask questions from the audience. So just feel free. If you are shy to speak up, you can just type your response in our chat. Okay. So another thing is we're going to have like a meet and greet with Coach RG. And then after that, maybe we can think of something like an activity related to his talk. And then next we have Teacher Jonah. So Teacher Jonah will not be one of our coaches. So she is here as a guest speaker, okay, due to some commitments with other companies. So she's giving us her time today just to give a piece of what she does in the advanced placement biology. So she's also teaching in an international school like Coach Graham, and she will share how can you use scientific method in your daily life and in your professional endeavor. Okay. And then after that, we have the lightning talk from Coach Dennis. So Coach Dennis will be arriving in a few minutes. Okay. And then Coach Graham will do his rhythm talk, or about his specialty like music and performing arts. Now let's talk about the politeness trap. This is common among Asians in the West. I'm sorry, in the East. So we are from the East. So Thai people. So I'm half Thai. I know since I was a kid, my kunya and kunya always ask me to. You need to. Why you call this why, right? So this is a form of respect. And for Japanese people, we all know that they always bow their heads to show respect. But I believe some Filipinos here will disagree, because even though we are from the East, Filipinos, when we see each other, it's the other way around, right? So have you noticed that when we see each other, instead of bowing, it's like part of this politeness trap is over apologizing. So we always say, "Oh, sir, I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry, ma'am." It's a psychological and social phenomenon where we are over prioritizing good manners. So agreeableness or harmony leads to self silencing. And sometimes it can lead to missed opportunities and personal discomfort. I think there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a thing about balance. Okay, so we're going to talk about assertiveness later. So what should we do? We should prioritize clarity. So we choose clarity over comfort in our conversation. And most of you, those who filled out the form, the Google form, normally your complaint or your request is that you would like to achieve clarity. Like when you're in a meeting, you would like people to respect you and get to the point. So there's a technique, even if you're not a native speaker. So Most of us are non-native speakers, but there's a way to get to the point when you are trying to give out your thoughts. So you think of three main ideas. So that's the meat of your message. And normally it comes in three. So our brain, so we are designed to to listen to stories. And most stories, it comes with a three act structure. So we have what? We have the starts with B. Anyone? Can you guess? When we're telling stories, we have the beginning, and then M, the middle, and E, the end. Next is we also need to set boundaries. So it happens all the time. So I've worked in a school, in a corporate world. I know this. Sometimes people give you more work than you can chew, right? So you need to learn how to assert your needs and opinions, even if it causes discomfort. So that's how you set some boundaries. So most people say that, okay, so if you're working in a company, you don't work there to get friends. Okay, so you don't work there to gain friends, but you work to network to each other. So when we were younger, we're always longing for this connection, like a deep, friendly connection. So you're looking for friends. But as you grow older, you would like to establish your network, and that's very important in your professional journey. Next is practicing directness. So how do you practice directness? In professional context, focus on speaking the technical truth rather than keeping the peace. So, if you're a professional, you know, at your at work, you have these policies and rules. So, as long as you abide the rules, you are you are on track. Okay, but there are times, of course, we are Asians, and in the East, we bend some rules sometimes. So, it's case by case basis. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that when to be direct and when to set boundaries. And you need to reframe politeness. So realize that authentic communication, even with friction, is more valuable than superficial harmony. Okay, so you cannot sleep at night because your colleague did not follow the rules, or he stepped on the line or she stepped on the line. So what will you do? It's hard to sleep at night if you don't have that clarity at the workplace. So it's a common struggle. So I suggest that you keep something like this. So this was a gift to me. So it's like a planner, but at the same time, I also keep like some journal, like a very short journal about my day. So was I successful with following my routine or schedule? And did I do great? So there's a smiley towards the end. Okay, so if I ticked all the boxes for the day, so I I put a smiley, and if not, there's a sad face, and then I try to put those other things in the next on the next day. Okay, right. So if you have any thoughts about this, or you can think about it and you can share it later. Okay. All right, Coach Graham, go ahead.
Hi, just a quick point. Yeah, I mean, there's this thing in Thailand called Greng Jai, right, which is very similar to the English Reserve, and that's can be a real challenge in meetings because in England we're told to just be, to keep it in and not to speak up. And I think in Thailand as well, there's this very polite thing called Greng Jai, right? I don't fully understand it, but it's like my Ben Lai, never mind, and all this kind of thing. And it can be difficult to get a point across in a meeting. I think that can be a challenge because you're inclined to just keep it to yourself, whether it's an amazing idea or a solution, or just not knowing how to disagree with someone during a meeting in a nice, a polite, and professional way.
100%. I agree. 100%. So we've been in the same school before. So Coach Graham and I. So we were colleagues before, and we share the same thoughts. 100%. I agree. And yeah, most people say that also in Thailand, like you cannot answer back, right? So it's a bad thing when you answer back to someone who is higher in rank. And for some Thai people that I know, my relatives, they also they're not happy with it. So even the native Thais, like the 100% Thais, so they are not happy with it, especially the younger generation. Like if someone's older than you cannot answer even if they're wrong everyone in everyone's eye. So they're wrong, but yeah, that's a
And I
thing.
think
So
I
so
think in some cultures that might be different. Some cultures are a little bit more direct. For example, in the Netherlands, I think they're quite direct. And I've worked with Dutch teachers before, and they have their tone is very different. So that's a challenge when in an international environment is to try and figure out all those cultural, those differences, so that we can all kind of get on the same page with our thinking.
yeah, that's right. Thank you so much, Coach Graham. So we're going to meet and greet Dr. Coach RG. So I'm going to put the spotlight. Let me just check here.
Hello.
All right. Hi.
Hello. Am I audible? Okay, so it's nice to meet you today. I'm sorry I can't give the full lightning talk because of my I just had my dental procedure. So I'll just give to you a nutshell of what I will talk about next time. So I was given the topic the science of presence. So presence is often mistaken as charisma or confidence, right? But in behavioral research, presence is suggested to be really about credibility. People do not judge us only by what we say, they also judge us by how we say it, through our tone of voice, posture, facial expression, attentiveness, and, of course, our emotional control, even while we are speaking. Research shows that credibility rests on two qualities: warmth and competence. Warmth helps people see us sincere and trustworthy, while competence assures them that we are capable and knowledgeable. When these two qualities come together, presence becomes especially powerful. Presence then is not about pretending. It's it's trying to be it's not about trying to be more important or even dominant. It's about being grounded, coherent, or aligned, and authentic. When our words, behaviors, and intention align, people are more likely to trust us. Ultimately, the science of presence reminds us that credibility is not something we merely perform. It is something we communicate, and something that we communicate consistently. Thus, the most credible people are not always the loudest, but often the most genuinely present. So I'll give you a longer version of this talk, a more nuanced version, maybe next time. Thank you very much.
Wow. That was that was lightning talk for me already, Dr. RG. Thank you so much for that unique perspective. Okay, it's a very fresh perspective, in my opinion.
Coming from an
And
introverted person like me.
yeah, I I bet most of us here we are introverts, so that's why we have this online thing instead
Yeah.
of doing it in person. Yeah, so yeah, we are all introverts in our own way. So in our own ways, and yeah, that's just normal. And that's another thing. That's another point that we're going to discuss in the power of pause. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. RG, Coach RG. All right. So next, we have our second specialist. So she is Teacher Jonah, and she is also the co-founder of the English Crew. And yeah, Teacher Jonah is there saying hi, and she's going to morning. So she pre-recorded her talk last night, and yeah, so thank you, Teacher Jonah, for giving us your time and expertise. Okay, right. So anything that you would like to say?
Yes, yes. So I just would like to personally say good morning to everyone, to all other coaches here, Coach Graham, Coach RG, and then we'll be waiting for Coach Dennis to come in and join us as well. So I pre-recorded my lightning talk thinking that I will not be able to join today. So I have other things going on as well. Talking about being introvert as well, I have other introvert stuff going on as well. But luckily, I am here today. So let's just go ahead and play the pre-recorded one. And then if you participants, students, if you have questions later on, then feel free to ask us later. Okay, thank you, Coach Nat.
In biology, if a cell signal is weak, the system fails. In the corporate world, if your explanation is too complex, your authority dies. Most specialists think that more jargon or more fancy word equals more respect. But the truth, if you can't simplify the complex, people don't think you're smart. They think you're confused. I'm Jonah, and I'm going to show you how to use the scientific method to fix your executive rhythm and finally sound as smart as you actually are. So let's go ahead and compare the signal versus noise principle. Let's compare cell communication versus boardroom communication or corporate world communication. So, going back to biology, cells must communicate perfectly, or the system fails. In the boardroom, the same rule applies. So specialists often drown their signal, meaning their main point, into noise. So noise examples, the excessive jargon, fillers, and the politeness trap. Albert Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the diagram of a protein synthesis. So this is a basic biological theory. You will see in this diagram, there are steps in there that are called transcription, translation, and then there's a translation in cytoplasm. Now, if you don't study biology, you will see this diagram as circles with some scary words in it. So there's a confusion. It looks like a factory explosion or factory of confusion explosion. So the critical path right here, if we're going to highlight, for example, this area right here, it's called mRNA. Stands for messenger RNA or ribonucleic acid. And the protein or the growing polypeptide chain right above here, this is the finished product. So that starts with the complexity. Let's define complexity. What is it about, or what is the definition of complexity? Complexity is just a series of simple instructions executed with precision. So if you can't identify the message, then you can't build the product. Same thing in the diagram that we're showing here. The messenger RNA took the code from the DNA, deliver it to the ribosomes in order for it to create the protein. Now, with this new diagram, of protein synthesis, it is still showing you the same information as the first diagram that you have seen before. But this diagram right here is more familiar. We are connecting it to the analogy that is part of our everyday life, which is the kitchen or the factory. We have the recipe book. We have the fabric factory. So, just like in a cell, authority comes from the clarity of the signal. If you can simplify the complex, then you haven't mastered it yet. So, our goal is to simplify, like this image that you're seeing right here, compared to the first image that you have seen. So, again, this is depending on what is your goal. Okay, now let's talk about the scientific method. Okay, so way back when you were in high school, you learned about the scientific method. And just to remind you, it is a disciplined process for turning raw data into reliable decisions. It replaces guessing with testing, so you never have to rely on luck. So it is a 5-step loop used to solve problems. So, first, you need to observe and you need to see the problem. So, how are you going to relate it to your own experience? So, you need to know yourself, reflect, and observe, and know your specific problem. Once you know that, you're going to the next step, which is to hypothesize. So, hypothesizing is you're going to predict the outcome. What is the outcome that you are expecting after you learn English in a learning center or online? If your outcome is to be able to talk confidently or to be able to use the words properly to be more comprehensible, then that will be your hypothesis. But how are you going to know that that will be the outcome after 6 months or after 1 year? Then you need to test it. You need to try the hypothesis. So if you're going to try the hypothesis, you also need to analyze. You need to interpret the results. After 6 months, am I developing? Am I changing? Am I still the same person 1 year ago? And that's the time that you're going to conclude and then explain what you have found. You can share it to a family member, you can share your experience to your friends, and that will be your conclusion. It's up to you if you would like to continue the learning process or you are ready to test it in real life situation or in your corporate life or at school at the university. So that will be your conclusion. So learning a new language is the same thing as following the scientific method. Okay, so let's go ahead and further explain the scientific method in terms of the 5 senses. The scientific method is a disciplined process for turning raw data into reliable decisions. So, again, it replaces guessing with testing. So, you never have to rely on luck. To be a scientist or a leader, or a person who would like to learn a new language, you must keep your senses active. So, what are those? Those are sight, your hearing, your touch, smell, and taste. So, that those are all considered your specialist toolkit. Now, let's have a short activity. I want you to think of a common workplace conflict and rewrite it as an objective observation. So, for example, instead of my boss is being unfair, that is your negative narrative in your brain, it becomes observation, which is resource allocation is currently misaligned with project deadlines. And that could be the reason of your boss's behavior. So it's like reframing what you are seeing in that specific situation. Okay, so side by side with AP biology, what it requires, and your authority. So, in biology, translating massive concepts into explainable units, that's the goal. But you, to have an authority, it isn't about using the biggest words, okay? It's about having the 4K brain to make the complex simple for others. Okay, let's put it into practice. So this organelle would always appear in all level of biology studies, starting with when you were in middle school, high school, university, you will always see mitochondria. So, how are we going to simplify the information of delivering this information to different groups of people? So, starting off with a definition. You would say mitochondria is a power plant of your cell. So, just as a power plant takes raw fuel like coal or gas and turns it into electricity that runs your house, mitochondria take the food you eat and turn it into a form of energy, which your body can actually use. That's the main reason why we have the definition there that the power plants of your cells are the mitochondria. So if someone will ask you, how are you going to explain the use of mitochondria? What are the big three? So this is how you explain it. The big three, the first one is it's the energy currency or an ATP. Mitochondria produces a molecule called ATP or adenosine triphosphate. So think of ATP as the battery or currency of life. Every time you blink, think, or flex a muscle, you are spending ATP produced by your mitochondria. You'll say the second one is a process, which is a cellular respiration. Through a process called cellular respiration, mitochondria take nutrients, which are the glucose and oxygen, and then convert them into ATP, the water, carbon dioxide, which you breathe out. And the third one, their own blueprint. Mitochondria are unique because they have their own DNA. They are called mtDNA or mitochondrial DNA, which is separate from the DNA in the rest of the cell. Evolutionary speaking, scientists believe mitochondria were once independent bacteria that eventually moved into larger cells to live in a team up on what we call the process called symbiosis. And lastly, the structure. They have a very specific look that helps them work efficiently. Outer membrane, which is the protective skin of the mitochondria. Inner membrane, which is folded up like a zigzag. These folds are called cristae. Why the folds? To create more surface area. The more floor space there is, the more chemical reaction can happen at once, producing more energy. And again, everyone, that is mitochondria. And that's how you simplify the information from complex to something that is digestible or that is comprehensible to any type of audience. So mitochondria never ends. We also have a fun fact about mitochondria. Your body actually monitors how well your mitochondria are working. If you start exercising regularly, your cells will signal for the production of more mitochondria to keep up with the energy demand. And this is why your stamina increases over time. Another example, which is relatable in authority and delivering it in boardroom or in a corporate world, is a biological communication analogy. So what you're seeing right here is the quorum sensing in bacteria. So bacteria don't act until they reach a quorum. So there's actually a lot of research about this. There's even a TEDx that I used in my class in order for them to learn and understand how cells really communicate through bacteria. So this is actually nice to know because bacteria don't act until they reach a quorum, a clear or a collective signal. So if your executive communication isn't clear, then that means your team won't trigger into action. Next thing is the psychology of fluency, cognitive fluency, and trust. So there's a research like that by Dr. Norbert Schwarz, shows that if a statement is easy to read, there's a clean font, simple words, and clear diagram, the brain subconsciously assumes that it is more true and more trustworthy. So research shows that people trust information more when it is easy to process. So simplicity isn't dumbing down. It is a biological hack to build trust. Another example is plain language for rocket science. So NASA Communications Manual they're actually using plain language for rocket science. So there's a research about technical communication for non-specialists. It actually proves that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So the mandate for plain language across all communications, NASA mandates the use of plain language to build trust and ensure usability. So writers are instructed to write conversationally, and they are instructed to avoid jargon and use active voice. So the NASA content guide, if you're going to have a copy of it, you will see that it provides a specific list of bureaucratic or corporate words to avoid, such as leverage, utilize, impactful, and streamline. So it suggests straightforward alternatives like use, start, or clear to make content more inclusive and accessible. So if technical or legal terms must be used, authors are required to explain them clearly upon first reference. Okay, next is the communication challenge. So we have what we call the curse of knowledge. So we find it impossible to remember what it was like not to know certain processes and other technical things. There's a paradox of teaching, which is that the greater an educator's subject matter expertise, the harder it can be for them to effectively explain concepts to beginners. So the causes, the first one, inhibitory control. It's the difficulty experts have in ignoring or suppressing their own knowledge when trying to understand a beginner's perspective. Another reason is the fluency misattribution, the tendency to overestimate the likelihood that others share the same information, as well as overestimating the ease with which others can process that new information. So you assume that they already know it. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this short presentation about having a precise way of communicating to people. Charles Darwin said, language, like a species, once extinct, never reappears. So let's not make that specific language that you would like to learn, which is English, be in an extinct. I want you to practice that every day, develop your confidence, and communicate in English as much as you can, because every day is a chance to learn. Okay, I'll see you live. This is recorded, but I will be with you today live, so you can ask any questions that you might have related to the presentation I made for you today. Okay, have a good one. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Teacher Jonah, for that very insightful talk. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, hello, yeah, thank you. It's actually a little bit funny. I'm here with you live, and then you listen to me recorded. So feel free, students, participants, if you have any questions related to the talk that I just made last night. So just go ahead and feel free to ask us. You can go ahead and send it in chat as well. Okay, we're just right here for you. Thank you so much, Coach Nant, for presenting that video. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's very insightful, the talk of Teacher Jonah. During my university days, I'm also in agriculture, so I can relate like how the scientific mind works. I believe we have something that aligns to this, and you might already know it. It's called design thinking. So it's almost, in my opinion, it almost has the same structure, design thinking and the scientific method. Teacher Jonah and I will also joke about this. So we're making fun of the senses. So they say that when you are a scientist, you're viewing things as a scientist. So you should activate your senses. So sense of sight, hearing, smell, touch, and there are other two senses. Can you guess? It's common sense. So you should always have common sense. And the last thing is my principle, sense of humor. Okay, so don't lose your sense of humor.
I would like to add up with the use of common sense. So, of course, the last information that I've mentioned in the lightning talk is the curse of knowledge. So, use your common sense. If you are talking to someone that you know will not be understanding the words that you're using, then feel free to adjust the language that you're or the wordings on how you communicate to that group of people. So if like me, where my husband and I were living in Thailand, so if the way that you communicate to your friends is you're familiar of using, words that you and your friends are understanding, but with different culture, they will not be able to understand that, then feel free to adjust. Make use of your common sense to adjust in order for you to be comprehensible to others. Yeah.
Hello, teacher.
Sure. Okay. Go ahead.
I think is real and true. As it was, you speak correct. Yeah, I think this. I'm from Thailand and my skills speaking is not good. Yeah, I think this.
Yeah, but you're very yeah. I can understand you. You're kuntong, right?
Yeah,
Kuntong. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I see. Yeah, so it's nice to see you here. Hopefully, you can join our community. I'm always doing live on Facebook, by the way. So I'm doing free classes there. So if you would like to drop by, feel free. And yeah, if I'm live, you can ask questions live
Yeah.
and you can interact. Okay. Thank you so much, Kuntong.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so just practice. Don't be afraid, okay? Whenever you find someone like speaking buddy, did you know that there's a research saying that there are two group of babies. So they are 6 to 12 months. So that's 1 year old. And they say the reason why non-native speakers of English, the reason why are having a hard time to adjust or we freeze, it's because when our brain started developing during our 6 to 12 months, that's the time that we absorb all the sounds all over the world. So regardless of region, so there were American babies. They were exposed to Mandarin speaking people or Chinese people, and Group A was exposed to the same material. So they're teaching Mandarin or Chinese, but they were exposed on TV. So it's like just a screen without interaction. But another group of babies, they interacted with real human, like face to face. And then those Group B, absorb most of the languages or the Mandarin language, the sounds, everything. And there's a theory that, or hypothesis maybe, that your first 6 to 12 months, that's your peak to absorb those sounds. After 12 months, your brain will gatekeep. Okay, so it will gatekeep. So it will be an expert to being Thai or Japanese. So your brain is already an expert in your first language. So it says, okay. So I don't want to do like a double work. So I will not entertain those sounds. And they say that to break that barrier or for you to develop your neuroplasticity, like what teacher Jonah said, you need to practice and try to exaggerate. So if you notice, like when you go to Anuban, right? So when you see Anuban or kindergarten, okay. So for those who are non-Thai speakers, so in Anuban school or kindergarten, like kindergarten 1, 2, 3, if you see the teacher, they're always overacting, like OA, like I'm squeezing the lemon because you need to train your brain to absorb those sounds. Okay? So that's a technique, especially if you're struggling with R and L. So you try to exaggerate. So if you learn a new word, let's say what's a new word? I have this student. He's working in finance in mutual funds. So I'm trying to give him words like volatility. Okay, volatility and all those words. And we exaggerate. So he records a video with audio, and then I check. And then, okay, so this is your homework for tonight. So you record via mobile phone, and then the next day I'll give him feedback. So you need to stress this. So there's still interaction. So there's still an advantage if you are working with a coach. So that's the advantage of having a coach, because you can get real time feedback. So unlike YouTube, okay, you can watch me. Okay, oh, Coach Nant is teaching for free every week. So you just see me there. So it's passive learning. Okay, it's not active. There's a difference. It's like you're studying water, but you're never gonna swim. So you're just studying water. So what are the components of H2O? You really need to swim or ride a bike to learn the language, so another language. The next point, which is power of pause. So we would like to master this. It's a communicative power of silence. So it can be viewed in two angles, okay, in two ways. First is, if you're silent, it could mean that you're just an introvert, or you have social anxiety. You don't want to interact with anyone. So that's very common. Okay. And another thing is, if you're silent, it could be like a catalyst of creativity. So that's a time for you. There's a time for you to think, especially in the East, Eastern cultures, among us Asians, Japan, China. So we value silence. So there should be like a moment of silence, because that's the time that we can reflect, and it will enhance our creativity. And in based on studies, we also have people from the West or the US. Most of them, they don't want dead air. So as much as possible, they just want to talk all the time. But anyway, maybe Coach Graham can confirm that later. Okay, but yeah, that's what I've read in those publications. And another thing is the prosodic variation. What is prosodic? It's like reading a poem. When you read a poem, you show your feelings, right? So there's this element of art. You're trying to inflect your tone. There's a rising tone, and there's a downward tone. Okay, so like what we said, if you're pausing or you are staying silent, it it can trigger or catalyst. It's a catalyst for creativity, and that creates a more nuanced conversation with people. Some of my students, they also ask me, teacher, why do we need to learn idioms? So most of you, maybe you're familiar with idioms, because with idioms it makes your conversation more interesting and more nuanced. Okay, so power of pause. Another thing is, you should embrace that I'm thinking. You should embrace that idea. So it's not always full talk. There's no dead air. Okay, that's fine, especially in business English. Okay. So instead of your mind trying to hunt the next word, so you need to resist the urge. I'm also guilty about this. So there are times that I use and we all do. That's reality. It's almost impossible to avoid ums and ah. So, but try to keep it minimal. Okay. So simply pause and remain completely silent until you have collected your thoughts. So that's That's an idea on how to do it instead of saying okay. So you will be viewed as someone who is confused. So this gives you an internal thought process, the time it needs to catch up with your thinking and your mouth, and make a conscious effort. Try to rehearse with another human being, like our students on Discord. Sometimes they rehearse by themselves, so they connect with each other. They connect and they message each other. Hey, are you free this time? We can do like a conversation practice. Okay. But sometimes there's also a disadvantage to that, okay? Because if you're doing conversation with a friend, they're too polite to correct your mistakes. Unlike with a coach, we don't sugarcoat. We will tell you, hey, this section is wrong. You should improve on this one, or else you will not progress. Imagine trying to practice for many years doing the same mistake. Like you didn't know that there should be this subject verb agreement when you talk, when you speak. And these days we have AI. So there are lots of AI in the market. You can just search for AI speech coaching. Yeah, so it can give you a very robotic response. Yeah, that's a disadvantage because if you're being coached by a human being, they have real experiences and the relationship can be deeper compared to AI. For example, you're learning music with Coach Graham, so he will play the ukulele. You can jam, and then he will share his experience like a random thing. You know what? I have new pets today. So I have two dogs, right? So you can share, and it creates a bond. It's a different thing. So with those experiences, you cannot forget those phrases that you use in the conversation because it's deep. Like you saw the dog and he or she is so cute, and you can connect to each other. Coach Dennis is like an online assessor. He's a language assessor, and he's working with De La Salle University in Manila, and also an alumni of the University of the Philippines. So he he's got a lot of credentials. So his expertise is in testing or test preparation for IELTS, for TOEFL, for TOEIC. And take it away, Coach Dennis.
Good afternoon. So I'll be talking about the standardized English tests that are offered internationally. I have been doing English international standardized English tests for about almost 15 years now, mostly for Cambridge, and I've also trained for the Pearson Test of English and also for the occupational English test, which are high stakes tests for study, migration, and the like. So I'd like to present the different types of tests that you can review with here at the English group. So let me just switch the slides. So there are a number of tests that the English crew could help you review with. So we can begin with the TOEIC test, which is a test of English for international communication. So this is a low stakes test. Um, this is not usually used for migration. It may be used in certain situations for study, but for migration and the like, you would need to take the high stakes tests. And one of those tests would be the TOEFL test from ETS. Similar with the TOEFL test is the IELTS, or the International English Language Testing System, offered by Cambridge. And another test by Cambridge for medical professionals is the occupational English test. So if you would want to say, for example, go to the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the like, or even in the United States, and you're a medical professional, then this would be the best test to take. Another test that is quite popular nowadays, which is completely online, is the Pearson Test of English. So this is also a high stakes test, and this is completely online. The results could be available in as quick as maybe a day or maybe just a couple of hours. The other one, which is a relatively new test, is the Michigan English test offered in the United States, but this is also a high stakes test. And the English test created by Canada is the CELPIP, or the Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program. So this is also online. So this is offered in just a few testing centers around the world, as this is usually used for migration in Canada. But for general purpose uses, you can take the TOEFL test, the IELTS, and the Pearson test of English. All right. So here at the English crew, or the tests rather, the major tests, the high stakes tests, the one in red, would basically assess your reading, listening, writing, and speaking skills. So, for example, for the Pearson test of English, they would measure the four skills using a complete clean artificial intelligence system, while for the TOEFL test and for the for the Michigan English test and also for the IELTS test, they use a combination of human markers and AI markers and the like. All right. But for the TOEIC test, they basically measure your speaking abilities. That's why it's not really yet acceptable for migration, for instance, and for study in general. Right. So here at the English crew, how would we prepare you to take these tests? So one, we would start off with assessing your language proficiency first to check where you are when it comes to your proficiency in the English language. And then we will provide you with an overview of the test, discuss its parts, how the tests are scored. Now, these tests don't have a passing or failing score, because your score, your passing score, would depend on what is required of you upon application at the embassies and at the learning institutions and the like. All right. For example, for IELTS, the slide scoring would be from 0 to 9. For TOEFL, for example, it's from 0 to 120. For the Pearson test of English, it's almost the same. All right. Now, after providing the test overview, we would now discuss the essential skills needed to achieve your target score. So, combined with the results of your language proficiency assessment, we would now discuss what other lessons you would need to take before we actually go into doing the drills that come from authentic materials from the test makers themselves. Eventually, we would help you be equipped with test and language skills. So usually this, depending on your language proficiency, this may last from, let's say, a few weeks to a couple of months, so that you'll be able to hit your target score. Okay, now the target score that you would need to hit also varies, again, depending on the time that you applied for, say, for example, a student visa or for an immigrant visa and the like. Right? Now, if you're traveling, of course, to other countries, you don't need to take these tests. But if you would want to study in another country or live there because you have a plan to marry somebody, so that kind of test would usually be the IELTS life skills test or the Pearson test of English life skills test. All right. Afterwards, we'll be providing you with exercises and student mentoring to monitor your progress when it comes to doing the exercises and if you're actually scaling up when it comes to your proficiency in the language. Finally, we will expose you to a simulation of the actual testing environment, which is a huge factor when students take the test. All right. Why? Because some students somehow suddenly encounter a lot of test anxieties when they step into the testing environment. So even if they're actually ready to take the test, they sometimes not perform to standard. Okay. Now, during mentoring, what do we often do? We would provide a personal assessment of your proficiency. Another thing that the English crew would do would be to create personalized lessons to address language deficiency. All right. So we won't jump into doing these exercises, but we will focus first on your language deficiencies so that you'll be able to do the exercises properly and be able to achieve your target score. On top of creating personalized lessons, we'll be providing remedial lessons in the event that you don't reach your target score after taking the test. All right. So basically, those for when it comes to the standardized English tests, those are the major tests that the English crew could cover and help you with. Right. Now, do you have any questions so far?
Hello, teacher.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good. Good afternoon. Okay. Uh, question for me. IL is hard to learn. Is IL?
Yes, the IELTS. Yes.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Yes. I can say yes. Yes. Hi, Tom.
Yeah. Uh, in มัธยม grade 9 grade 9 and 10 IL is important. This
Mhm.
thing. Okay.
In some countries, yes, they do require it. In Korea, they require that at the college level or university level. But in Vietnam or in Korea, the basic test that they require in schools would be the TOEIC.
Oh, sweet. Oh, I think I will practice this test and IELTS TOEFL this as it was. Yeah, I think to do. In university is so difficult to me. Yeah, to learning. I think this.
So before, of course, we go into the exercises, and we could probably do some additional lessons first, depending on the outcome of your assessment. Maybe about grammar, or it may be about vocabulary. So we'll try to address those things first before we
Yeah.
step into studying the IELTS and the like.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I will try. That's
mhm,
difficult for me. Grammar. That's thing is.
mhm. All
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
Thank you, teacher.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? All right. Okay. So if you have other questions, of course, you can email the English crew, and we'll be happy to address your concerns and the like. So more than the standardized test, the English crew, it would be offering a number of lessons on, say, for example, vocabulary or conversations and the like. Okay, so just email us or email the English crew, and we'll create some lessons for you. So if you don't have any other questions, I'm sorry, but I'd have to step out for a while because I have to return to a meeting with.
And thank you so much for sharing those information. So I don't have an idea about those things like the test preparation that you can use it to go overseas. And now we are we're informed. Okay, so it's nice to know. And later on, I'm going to send you like a QR code on how you can get in touch with our specialists. So there will be a separate page, so you can scan and you can bookmark. And we have packages for one-on-one coaching. And also, if you're working in a company or in a school and you need someone to train your staff or you need someone to teach your student like after class. So we can provide online support. Okay, so it's a separate deal. So we can talk about it, and if we can come up with a good plan. Okay, so our team, the specialist, and I, we are willing to help. Okay, let's proceed with our next specialist. So it's Coach Graham. So Coach Graham is a master's in education and also a bachelor's degree in education.
Hi, my name is Graham. I'm an international educator from the UK, currently based in Thailand. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I'm very excited to announce that I've partnered with the English Crew, and I'll be offering lessons, English lessons, conversational English, through the lens of music. What does that look like? Well, whilst learning English, you'll be having lots of fun learning music as well. I'll be teaching from my music room at home, and the lessons will be highly personalised just for you. My main instrument to teach is going to be drums, also ukulele, and then if you want to learn a bit of basic guitar, keyboards, or some DJ skills, I've got that equipment here as well. Just one thing, my singing is awful, so we're not going to be doing that. In terms of background, I've been drumming for over 40 years, so I can give you a good solid background and get you playing some nice beats in just a few lessons. You won't need access to a drum kit, but you probably need some drumsticks. Or if you don't have drumsticks, maybe just a couple of pencils will do for now. For the ukulele, I can teach you some basic chords which will help you play almost any pop song. Also some strumming patterns as well. Also, as a special offer, we're saying that if you've got a kid who wants to join you for the music lesson, then that's free. The lessons will be fun, engaging, and you'll be learning English without even knowing it. If this sounds like something that is interesting for you, please contact the English Crew and you can organise with them a free 15-minute meet and greet, and we'll take it from there. I hope to meet you soon, and in the meantime, take care. Let's do this.
Okay, thanks, Nant. So, hi everyone. I spoke briefly earlier when the audio went out at the beginning. So, and you've just seen the video. So, yeah, my name's Graham, and I have been teaching for a long time, like over 20 years. And the thing that I landed on about 10 years ago was performing arts, because the main reason was because the kids that I was teaching, it's been a lifelong passion of mine anyway. So I was lucky to bring my passion and my teaching together. But the kids that I was teaching at the time they didn't want to go to performing arts, and I was like, "Whoa, what's happening? This is crazy." They were, they'd rather do a maths lesson than performing arts, and it was because it was very it was delivered in a way that was not differentiated. It wasn't helping them. It wasn't helping them develop confidence or their sense of identity. So that's when I kind of started doing this concept that was differentiating, which is when you teach kind of like you change. You don't just do one thing for everyone. And I pitched to the school, and they gave me the job of performing arts. And so I set up this area with all kinds of stuff that the kids hadn't been exposed to before, like green screen, a drum kit. Amazingly, the kids didn't have a drum kit set up before. And all these different things like plug and play environments. To cut a long story short, so we were doing individual inquiries, and I spoke a little bit earlier about that. That fed into when we started on Zoom during COVID. That really worked because the kids were at home alone, or not alone, but we couldn't, rather than having classes that were just everyone do the same thing, it was they all were doing their own individual inquiry. So it worked out really well. And then we discovered that, the kids really discovered that they built their identity. So after that, then we kept it going. And yeah, then a lot of the students were really confident. they built a lot of confidence through that. And the other thing, so when you're learning something like the drums or the ukulele or something that you love to do, the speaking becomes a lot more natural, and it becomes a lot more fluent as well. So uh, I do have an example, but I'm not sure if it's completely appropriate, but I'm going to share it anyway. So when I was touring around France in the 90s with my band, I always used to joke that I spoke French much better after a couple of drinks. So we're not going to be drinking during the lessons, but it's an analogy so that when you're relaxed, you can speak a lot more clearer, more comfortably. And yeah, so confidence and well-being, those are the two kind of things. So after the students have been learning performing arts like this for a year or two, they had a very strong sense of identity based around what as them as a performing artist. So I then thought, well, we could do this with adults as well, because a lot of adults that I speak with, if I asked them if they know a musical instrument or if they do anything kind of creative like that, a lot of them will say, oh no, I missed the boat, I didn't get the chance to do that. And I think that a lot of people think when you leave school, that's it. It's like you don't have the opportunity anymore to do it. So that's one of the reasons why we thought we'd open this up with a music focus. So then if you didn't learn drums or ukulele at school, but you're one of these people that's like, I really wanted to learn drums, but I never had the opportunity. Well, here it is. So if you want to just learn some basic beats, so, one or two drum beats will enable you to jam along with 80 or 90% of the music that you hear. So, and then for the ukulele, I love the ukulele because it's just really portable. It's very cool. My dogs love hearing the ukulele as well. So when I'm strumming downstairs, they come and see me and their ears are back and they really love it. And it's very easy to play. It doesn't hurt your fingers. If you've ever tried to play a guitar, it hurts your fingers at the beginning. It's quite a the learning curve is not very easy. Like a lot of people drop out really early because it just hurts to play. So but with the ukulele, it's got plastic strings. There's only 4 strings, and it's a lot easier to play. But yeah, if you just learn a few chords, you can pretty much learn any pop song because there's only a few chords in most pop songs, and they're the same ones. So identity, confidence, and the other thing is well-being. Just if you can, learn a few chords on the ukulele and just sit and strum at home, and maybe you can sing as well. And then, yeah, you can even play to some friends, even take it to work, have a little jam at lunchtime. And the other thing is, when you play a musical instrument, people look at you differently as well. If they talk to you and they say, what do you do at the weekend? Oh, I was just practicing my, brushing up on my ukulele skills and doing this and that. It's kind of like another thing that you've got that becomes part of your identity. And I think that helps. That helps with the way you're viewed at work. So I've got a couple of notes here talking about that, talking about rhythm, active learning. So yeah, this is going to be active learning. My room here, I've got guitars and ukuleles and DJ decks as well, and then the drums over there. Yeah, so I'm hoping that as we start to talk about different things like drums, you'll forget that you're speaking English. So then it becomes a second nature, and as you become fluent, I know from learning a different language that it's really difficult when you have to do all that processing. So when you hear a foreign language, so if I hear some Thai, I hear it, then I have to translate it to English. then I think in English, then I have to think about my response in Thai, and then I attempt to respond in Thai. Um, so as you when you're kind of in the mix in a conversation and doing stuff as well, then that starts to become a lot more natural. So you're thinking in the language. And I remember when I first like had a dream in French when I was about probably in my as a teenager, because I used to go to France a lot when I was younger, and it was lovely. I woke up and I was like, wow, I've got it. Like I felt like I was fluent. Um, and it sounds like a lot of you, if not all of you, are kind of pretty much fluent already. But it's just having that confidence to go, okay, let's express ourselves effectively here. Something else that I just lastly want to mention is the talking thing about the silence, and that is so true. Westerners like to talk in meetings, and it's very easy, especially as an Asian. It would be very easy for you just to kind of sit there, keep your thoughts to yourself, and that is a challenge. So you then have to kind of think about ways to go pick the right moment or just signal that you have something to say. For me, I would like to write it down, because if you've got a thought and then 5 minutes later someone says, "Oh, I think Graham had something to say," it's gone. So write it down and then, think about how you're going to express that. But yeah, that is definitely a challenge. The silence in meetings. It's awkward for Westerners. We don't like it. So, and that's a challenge working. I don't know how many of you work in a real international environment, but that is a challenge, because you've got all these different cultures coming together. Some people like to talk, some people like to listen, some people like to interrupt. And yeah, so that's a challenge as well. So anyway, that's a little bit about me and kind of what I'm offering, or what we're offering, partnered with the English crew. And yeah, I'm hoping that I can offer something that is fun and is going to make you motivated to learn English, as well as learn some new skill, ukulele, or maybe drums, or even DJing.
We are now oriented with the power of pause. So the technique here is that you can also watch TED Talks. So you might be familiar with TED Talks. So if you search on YouTube, there are lots of TED Talks that you can find on the web. And with these TED Talks, you can study how they speak, analyze their pauses. So instead of studying their sentences and their phrases, try to spot where did they pause. So that's another technique. Okay, so when you're doing like passive learning via YouTube, you can also do that. So that's a very powerful tip. I'm also learning. So as a coach, so I'm not dismissing the idea that I also need to upgrade myself, or to upskill. Okay, that's part of human learning. So it's a lifelong process. So it never ends. Now let's go to our audit. How do you audit your 4K brain? So you have that expertise. Okay. So how do you talk, or how do you behave like you're in the top management? So imagine you are trading a rare Pokemon card. Okay, so some of you might be playing Pokemon. And imagine that you're trading a very rare card. So the trap is, if you act too nice and sweet, some people, they view it as a weakness. Yeah, so some people. So we all know that in the corporate world, like young professionals, we all have a different world, and some people, they see it as a weakness if you're too nice or too sweet. So the advice is that you should be tough and firm. Okay, It doesn't mean being mean. It means showing you know exactly what your card is worth. So people respect a lion who stands their ground. Next is the inverted pyramid technique. So when you're sending emails, so most of us, especially in the white collar job people, so they have this hair trigger. So when you say, so they lose patience so easily. Okay, so they cannot tolerate boring emails. So they will delete your message in 2 seconds. Example, you just say, "Hi, how are you? I hope your cat is well." I was thinking maybe one day we could talk about, oh, okay, deleted. So they don't care. Put the most important thing at the very top. So it's like our friends in the industry of healthcare. So we all know that we manage cases in the form of triage, right? Triage. So you have the big decision or the most important. So you prioritize that. Line two, why it matters. So why? And then three is what you need from them. Okay, so that's the structure. So it's called the inverted pyramid. So you might find it helpful in your professional life. Soft words versus sneaky words. Okay. Using words like might or perhaps is like wearing a helmet. It shows you are polite and careful. It's good for making friends or having coffee. But the trap is that if you use phrases like people are saying, it's sneaky. It's like hiding behind a bush because you're afraid to say what you think. Don't be a weasel, be a leader. Number four, breaking the bamboo ceiling. In some cultures, we are taught to work hard, stay quiet, and be a perfect student. So in the big corporate world, they don't care. So if you are too quiet, people think you don't have executive presence. So you need to practice to speak your mind, okay? And try to polish those that are coming out of your mouth. Try to make it executive, like the choice of words. It matters a lot. Like what Dr. RG said, people judge us according on how we sound. So it's so true. So there's a saying that you don't judge a book by its cover, but that's reality. So you cannot avoid that. People will really judge you. Okay. So you have to stop being the smart kid who does the homework and start being the person who leads the team, builds trust, and speaks up in meetings. So it's also a communication style. So you should develop your communication style, not just in English, but maybe in your native language. When you level one is when you say I feel, it's just an emotion. It's shaky. When you say I think, it's level two. This is better. So it shows you use your brain. And level three is space. So I believe. So this is an absolute truth. This is how you lead 100 people. So you will be viewed as a leader if you use this phrase. All right. Now, most of you who came here are feeling polite, hesitant, or quiet. So that was your analog self. And our objective here is at least get to point B. Okay. So all of the information you can find all over the internet. So we are drowning in information. So our objective in the English crew is transformation. So I want you to be a version 2.0 of yourself. So now you are in point A. I want you to reach point B. Somehow, I believe in this talk, you were enlightened. I hope. And after hearing from all of our specialists, so look at your phone and try the one word that describes your new executive rhythm. So I'm going to post, share my screen. There's a QR code, and just use one word. Next Monday, so assuming that you're in the working class, you're young professionals. So how will you describe what are you going to say in that Monday, next Monday? Just one word. So, how will you try to improve yourself now? So, you can write anything like a strong adjective. All right. So, if you have your phone, please scan the QR code. So, in one word, just one word, how will you speak in your Monday morning meeting? So, just write your one adjective. I think my face is my face is blocking the QR code. Let's give me a second. All right, so I think this is better. Is that okay? Is this good? Okay, maybe I can make my face smaller. Wow, okay, so someone typed structure clearly. Standardized, okay. Routine. That's great. So we have respondents, okay. Confident. Is that our winner? So we have standardized, routine, confident, good, clearly, mindset. Flow. So there's a flow. There's a good flow of communication. Timing clearly, routine, flow, structure. Okay. Yeah, I think we have a winner. Our winner is confident. I'm so happy that you feel confident. All right. Okay. Oh, there are still responses coming. Confident, control, organize, focus, routine, structure, timing, flow, clearly, confidence, good, handsome, amazing. Okay. Mindset, standardized. All right. So let's wrap it up. If you have any questions, you can share. Like, if you feel like you're an expert, you know that you're an expert. You might be in engineering, and you know that you're an expert. But when you talk, when you speak, do you feel that you sound like a junior? Anyone here who feels that way? Yeah, so feel free to give speak up or just write your thing in the comment. Confidence, okay. Oh, so Adrian, you felt more confident when you found the English crew. You found your confidence. Yeah. All right. And anything you would like to share, Adrian? Yeah. By the way, let me introduce Adrian. Adrian is one of our students on Discord. So let me put you on spotlight.
Thank you. Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
Adrian. Yeah.
Nice to
So
meet you.
anything you would like to share? Mm. He's from Mexico,
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah. Here it is almost 11 p.m. Yeah, talking about how I am feeling when I am speaking English in a professional environment. It depends on the situation because sometimes when you are hanging out with your friends or your coworkers, it will be uh, easygoing way for speaking. But when you are in a meeting for uh, reviewing some deliveries or processes, you have to speak very professional and very clear. Not too fancy because the thing is you need to show your advances and your progresses. So your progress. So the thing is um, depends on the mood depends on the situation in the professional environment. So for me, I've always tried to speak clearly because even in my native language, my native language is Spanish. So I usually don't try to speak too much technically because uh, meetings are more about just uh, show your progress and send it as much as soon as possible because the thing is no one have a lot of time for checking all of the things everyone uh, has to do. So that's why depends on the situation. For me, I've always tried to speak clearly because at the same time, sometimes I would like to speak better than I can, but sometimes I don't need it. Not because I don't want it. It's because the situations doesn't requires a highest level. So I agree with if I could add something. I agree with all of those methodologies the specialists are speaking because the scientific method it's important once you want to have a feedback for your progress. So it requires more discipline of this method or comprehensive method about music, about other areas. For me, works better because you don't need to feel pressure once you are learning something. Under pressure, it means it's mandatory to pay attention all the time. And for me, with my age, because I am not too young, the thing is, I would rather to get the vocabulary and using the language without pressure. and also this type of exams, this type of tests, professional tests. Sometimes it's mandatory because you need to make sure that you are able to develop many other things, not only to show just not only showing some tasks in a specific. So in my case, I am trying to have balance in all of those areas because it's good when you have a professional feedback, and also when you are acquiring vocabulary or embracing the language in a normal way, and also testing your level in some professional test. So, well, I would like to have more balance in all of those areas, and that's why I am getting better through the time, because the thing is I am embracing more this learning curve of the language than understanding and studying under pressure. So it works more for me. And thank you for the time.
Also, shout out to one of our students from the western side. Anastasia, are you there?
Hello, I'm Anastasia. I'm from Ukraine, and I want to say that I'm glad to participate in this workshop. And I want to thank everyone who presented and at the event, because the information was really interesting and useful. And I think it was also exciting to participate in such as international event.
Okay. If you don't know, Anastasia is very diligent, like Adrian. So even though it's early morning, so Adrian it's 11 p.m. and for Anastasia it's 5 a.m. So you wake up every
At the
5 a.m. just
start of the meeting,
to
it
have.
was 5 a.m. Now it's 7 a.m.
Thank you so much for your time. QR code. Okay, so this is the QR code going to our specialist. So feel free to scan and you can bookmark that. We're going to change some information there, especially for coach teacher Jonah. She cannot offer AP biology, but we have a lot of people in our network, so we can tap anyone, teach special subjects like AP, advanced placement. If you have kids who are dreaming of joining the Ivy League schools in the US, so yeah, we also offer that service.